have a thing for ThinkPads. I think there's such a really cool aesthetic to them. And I have a couple of plans for this laptop. I don't know exactly which direction I'm going to go in at this point, but I do have some ideas. Now, first impressions are that this is very clean. Now, typically with a ThinkPad, you kind of have a rubberized finish to it. This one does not have a rubberized finish to it. It is a matte black plastic that I don't know if you're going to be able to... Actually, the camera's not having that much trouble focusing. I noticed it did a second ago. But you have your ThinkPad branding up here, and it is a 15.6-inch laptop. Now, I know it's having trouble focusing there, and it's probably because there's not a lot of definition to what's going on here. It's just a black slab. Before we open it up, let's take a tour around the laptop. You'll notice that it is it's an older model. It's not a brand new laptop. I find that unless you're getting a specific laptop these days, if you want to, do video editing, photo editing, you want to do gaming, you want a Chromebook, you want something that's very specific, you want one of the new Surface tablets / notebooks. If you want something that's very specific, then go by all means and go and get it. If you want a regular laptop, unless you're somebody who really needs an extra, super thin laptop, to me, your best bang for your buck is getting an older laptop. Now, I might want to update the RAM on this. We'll see if the battery has, holds a good charge or not. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't really decided what I want to do on this yet. But for the amount of money I spent on this, you'd be hard pressed to find a computer at that price. And again, if you just need it as a general purpose device and you don't need anything specific out of it, you can get really good deals on used laptops. So anyway, it is a thicker device. It is over an inch thick. So there's not much going on the front of the laptop. You do have these little rubber stoppers here. They are covering the screws. So you have, 5 of them up front here. So if you pulled those off, it would reveal a screw. That's number one. That's still intact. That's impressive. Number two, you have a SD card slot here. I don't know if it ever came with a blank. It does not have a blank in there anymore. That's fine. On the right side of the laptop, over here, we have a Kensington lock. We have your power port here and a power LED. You have what I believe is a DVD drive. Typically they're DVD drives, so you don't really find CD-only drives these days. But, may or may not use it, whatever. Then we have 2 what look like USB 2.0 ports over here. On the back of the laptop, nothing really special going on back here. You do have the removable battery. Hopefully it does take a charge still. I'm considering maybe upgrading that. You do have a USB port back here, and I don't see that it's the high-speed USB port, although it is yellow as opposed to the ones over here, which were just a regular color. I don't know if it's just a color choice so that you kind of, hey, there's a USB port on the back, or if that is a high-speed port. Typically, it'll have what looks like an SS on it. That would indicate that it's a 3.0, but it doesn't have that, so I don't know. Over here you have a vent, and you have an exposed screw here, over here as well, if you do want to take it apart. Hopefully I don't have to take the laptop apart itself. You do have access points on the bottom here. On the left side of the computer, we have more venting here. You have your VGA port here, you have your eSATA port here, you have your Ethernet port here, and you have an HDMI port here, as well as a headphone jack over here. Now you do have a blank here, and that's your card slot there. On the bottom of the laptop, you have 4 rubberized feet down here, and then you have obviously the venting, and then you have the different access points on the laptop. You have one door here, and then one larger door over here. Then over here, we have a screw that will release the DVD drive here. So you can either replace the DVD drive, or you can put a caddy in there sometimes, where you can put, I've seen where you can put an extra battery in there. I don't know if this model supports that. You can also put, in some of them, you can put in a different caddy where you can put in a second drive. So I don't know what this model supports, but that's what that screw is in there. I will be opening this up. I think right here, I mean, it has to be right here, is where the hard drive replacement can be done by removing this here. And then I don't know what this is for here, if it's RAM. RAM might be there, or it might be some other access point there as well. So pretty accessible. It looks like you cannot dock this. You might be able to plug it in, plug some sort of dock into one of the ports, but it doesn't have a dedicated docking port on the bottom. Over here we have a latch to remove the battery, which is mostly a thing of the past these days, but you can lock it, or you can unlock it and remove it. I've already put some painter's tape over the Windows 7 Pro certificate of authenticity there. It's been a while since I've worked with Windows 7. I've updated all my machines to Windows 10 that do run Windows. It looks like, probably, I think it's like a 6-cell battery. I don't know. It'll be nice to see if that's going to hold a good charge. I don't know at this point. So overall, I'm very impressed with the condition of the laptop. It is an older laptop, so there are some things that go along with that. I'm going to see if I can use it as a daily driver or not. I might update the RAM, I might update the battery. I'm definitely going to put an SSD in here though. So let's open this thing up. Now, a lot of ThinkPads of this era latched. This one does not latch. Now, the laptop itself does not really have any rubberized texture to it at all, like some of the ones you might be used to. So again, this is a 15.6-inch display on here, and it's a matte screen, which I like. You do have a webcam up here, and it looks like you have one microphone there. It has Energy Star certification there. Of course, it has these little rubber spacers. I don't know if you can see it. It's a large laptop here. You have different rubber spacers here, so the screen is not going to smush onto the keyboard there. It's a way to protect it. You have your Lenovo branding right here, and it looks like this is a speaker grill right here, right under the screen. I think that's a very unique place to put a speaker grill. Yeah, it looks like there's stereo speakers, one right there and one right there. I don't know if you can actually see the difference, you know, because there's a total grid over the entire area. But I think that's an excellent means of directing the sound towards you, because you're going to always put this in the direction that you're going to be looking at. So I think that's actually an excellent idea. The palm rest area and keyboard area here is very basic looking. I like the fact that it does not have the fingerprint reader on it, because typically I don't use that anyway, and it's nice to not really have things on here that you're not going to use. The only thing that is on here that I'm not going to use is the little track point nub here. Of course, there's a rubber little nub that you can replace, but I think ThinkPads were the originators of that. So you can use that instead of a mouse. And then, of course, these are the keys that are associated. There's 3 keys on there that are associated with that nub. You can use these keys. They're left and right mouse clicks, as well as a center click. You can use it with the touchpad as well as the other keys down here. So you have your ThinkPad branding over here, and there's embossed edge in there. You can see that there. This is a matte black plastic. It is not rubberized, as I mentioned before. You do have your Core i3 branding over here in the corner, as well as Lenovo Enhanced Experience and the Windows 7 sticker there. So you have the characteristic Lenovo keys that are kind of arched at the bottom but square at the top. And then you have your power button over here. Overall, the device seems pretty clean. There are a couple of things on here that I have to clean off that I don't know exactly what they are, but overall, for a used laptop, I'm very impressed with the condition. There's really no scratches or scrapes to speak of. There's a couple on the lid, but just very, very well taken care of device. Hopefully it's going to work well as well. Let's see. So the keys are bigger than you find these days, but not as big as older models. So what I mean by that is that they're a little more beefy and there's a little more travel to them. But you know, there's the chiclet style keyboards of today. These are more along the lines of those chiclet style keys, but there's more travel there and the keys are a little bit beefier. I don't know, let's fire this thing up and see what's going on here. So we have the ThinkPad splash screen there. And starting Windows. It's been a while since I used Windows 7. A lot of people swear by it. I like Windows 10 if I'm using a Windows machine. So you're seeing a little bit of a flicker. That's just between the screen and the camera picking it up. You don't see that in person. That does happen with the refresh rates and whatnot. So I think they wiped this. So we have, let's see, let's look at the computer here. So it looks like there's probably 320 gig hard drive in here. So you have your Lenovo recovery partition and then the Windows 7 partition over here. Now typically with a computer these days, when I buy it used, if it's like this where it's, you know, it looks like it's a brand new install, or at least a, you know, cleaned up install, what I'll do is I will take the drive out, and then if I'm going to use Windows on it again, I'll clone that drive, which is probably what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to have an SSD that I'm going to put in here, definitely. What I'm going to put on here, whether I clone Windows 7 onto that drive or put a different operating system, I really don't know. But that's what I'm going to do out of the gate. That way, when I turn around and sell this device, because that will happen, I will turn around and sell this at some point, then I can just stick this hard drive back in there, and it is as I got it out of the gate. So that's really what I'm going to do first. Whether I clone it or whether I just put a different operating system on it is the question. So I don't know if you can see here, but the Windows Experience Index, which I don't think you can do anymore on Windows 10 machines, but is 4.3. It has an Intel Core i3 M380 in it at 2.53 gigahertz. And it has 4 gigs of RAM, like I said. It's a 64 gig operating system. The one thing I noticed out of the gate is that I can't do the two-finger scrolling. We'll see if this touchpad enables that, because that's part of my day-to-day computing. So it would be kind of not so good if it doesn't support it, but I'm sure it's just a setting that I can do. So far, I like what I see with this laptop. It looks to be in excellent condition. I love that you have a little eye on the ThinkPad up there that's lit up when the laptop is closed, or even when you have it open, when you're looking at it from the back. It did come with a Lenovo AC adapter, which is nice that it has the OEM stuff that comes with it. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with this laptop. You will be seeing it later in this channel, depending on what I end up doing with it. Now, there's some lower end options that I'm thinking of that I might not need to do any upgrades on it, where I'm not going to upgrade the RAM, where I'm not going to, you know, upgrade the battery. There might be things that I'll do with it that I need to do that before. So we'll see how things actually turn out. But thus far, I really like what I see here. So I bought this laptop in late 2018, November of 2018. And I didn't unbox it. The first half of this video was the unboxing. I didn't unbox it until probably February of 2019. So now it's September of 2019. This computer, after I unboxed it, kind of sat on a shelf for a while until I decided I had the time to do something with it. So what I ended up doing is I harvested 8 gigs of RAM from my HP ProBook that I ended up selling, and I put it in here. I also put an SSD in here because the computer was definitely not fast enough for my liking to use it as a daily driver, because that's one of the things I had that I was going to potentially do with this thing, is try and use it as a daily driver. And I put Linux Mint on here. So this is sort of my revival of the Living in Linux series, or at least it's an attempt to do that. We'll see how that goes. But I've been using Linux Mint on here for several months now. Again, it is September 23rd at the time of filming this portion of the video. And I want to say I've been using Linux Mint on this computer probably for about a good 3 months now. So I will go more in depth in a future video of my experience on here, but this is just the straight install of Linux Mint. I really haven't added much in terms of programs to here other than Chrome. I use Chrome. It has my bookmarks on it, so any machine I use, I want to have Chrome on it. So I put Chrome on here, and I actually put the trash icon on the screen here. Other than that, I haven't added any programs to this machine. And I've been using it as my daily driver for web surfing. And I must say the addition of the SSD and the 8 gigs of RAM make it very usable. It's not the fastest machine, obviously, that I've used, but I can definitely use it without any issue. The only 2 drawbacks of this machine are, number one, the speakers here. They're very low. They're not good at all. So if you want to use something on this laptop that requires good audio, I would say look at a different laptop. The other thing about this is, of course, when you're buying old machines like this, you're dealing with a battery that is not in its prime anymore. It's past its prime. So this battery, I believe you'll at least get an hour out of it, so it's not as bad as some could be. But, you know, those are the 2 drawbacks of the machine thus far. But typically I use it in a scenario where I can plug it in very easily, so that is not an issue. So all in all, I like the machine with the upgrades that I did to it. And as far as Linux Mint, which has always been recommended to me, I've pretty much just only done, I think, Ubuntu on this channel. But Linux Mint, which is a derivative of Ubuntu, has always been recommended. So I have been trying it for the past 3 months. And as far as a web surfing machine, no issues with it at all. But I think that's a good place to end it at this point, and I will give you updates as time goes on of my experience with Linux on here. Even though I've been using this for 3 months, you'd think I'd have a whole host of things to tell you, but I have kept my usage to this to a very narrow use case. Once I start to branch off into other things, then we will see how that works on this machine. Obviously, Linux does not require a low-powered machine like this. You can put it on a state-of-the-art machine. We all know that. But in a scenario like this, I wanted to take a piece of old technology like this and see if it's still relevant in 2019. So thus far, I've been able to use this just fine. And like I said, for me, the audio isn't necessary because when I'm doing web surfing, I'm not always listening to something. If I would be watching a lot of videos on here or listening to a lot of music, I definitely would not be able to use this machine. But that is going to do it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please post them down below. If you like what you see, please subscribe. If you want to help out this channel, you can give me a thumbs up. You can share this video on your favorite social media, or you can actually join my Patreon, all of which is greatly appreciated. Now, you may ask yourself, or ask me in the comments, why I'm kind of focusing on older technology. As I get older, I realize that we shouldn't always be chasing the newest, shiniest thing. We should also look at things that might still have use, that might end up in a dumpster somewhere, that might end up in a closet never used, and try and reuse or recycle older technology, because
a gadget should not just last you a year or 2 years or 3 years. It'd be nice to have these things for several years, for 5 years, for 10 years, and still be able to use them. Because if you want to be a responsible person on this planet, not to get any preachy about anything, but it's the older I get, the more I think about those things. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.